Trading is closed on the 13th of October 2022. In all the years I've been trading, this is one of the wildest reversals I've ever seen. So let's do our disclaimer first and then get down to business. This is my trading plan for tomorrow, the 14th of October 2022. Please remember, I can be completely wrong. Any trade you make should be at your own risk. Look for the pattern with the early high, which is what this is, and tomorrow should also have the early high. For years I thought the pattern was the one with the early low, but either it inverted on me or I misread it, as it should be the one with the early high. Well, let's go over what we said. We said the elements were there for a big gap down, which we certainly got. We were way up before the open, and we gapped down 70 points. That's enough to satisfy that prediction. We also looked for much lower prices. We got them early. I said we should have a straight line drop. We got that. What I didn't say was that we could have a major reversal. So what I said was all true, but I didn't call the reversal, just the initial drop. We get to cross a target off the list, 36, 34, 52, which printed 2 days ago and wasn't satisfied. These things always print at some time. I still have 11 higher targets which remain to be satisfied from 2022. System's over 20 years old now. This was the 12th unsatisfied target so far for this year. I've had 10 or 11 failed targets intra-year, never at the end of the year, never that stayed by the end of the year, but intra-year I've had 10 or 11 failed targets before. In over 20 years, I don't recall ever having 12. Maybe that should have been a clue, but there really was no precedent for that. We got an ultimate sell signal in the morning. We usually get more than this, but we don't have to. We got a buy signal in the afternoon. We got the minimum immediately, but nothing requires us to stop at the minimum. Let's look at the longer term charts and then come back to this one. Here's a monthly bar way under the lower Bollinger Band. Tends not to stay there very long. We had support fail on the weekly chart, but we really went way under the lower Bollinger Band too. You went far enough under the failure to say it worked. Doesn't mean you have to drop forever. Here's the daily chart. Now you'll remember Friday we had a DeMark sequential bar 13 and the Carolan spiral calendar date both print the same time. Now usually if Carolan's stuff works, it works within 3 days. Says occasionally it goes up to 6. DeMark's stuff, if you're going to get a rally of any size, should work within 3 days, although he doesn't have a specific time frame. Nothing happened within 3 days. It looked as if it came half a day late. That's just the way life goes sometimes. Now, to get confirmation of this, you have to go beyond today's close by 1 cent. I'm going to assume that's going to happen. There are no guarantees in this world, but assuming it happens, we have a reversal bar involving the lower Bollinger Band when the band's flat. And my rule says when you get that, the target is a challenge of the upper band. Now it doesn't come in a day, and this band moves. It could be higher, it could be lower. But right now it's around 3,900. So if my rule works, we have a ways to go on the upside. You always have to have a caveat on these things. We rallied all day and couldn't manage a close over the midday highs. You really have to gap and take out today's high, or else you should see lower prices tomorrow. Doesn't mean you have to close lower. And I think that'll happen, but it's possible to count this as an A, a B, and a C, and it's possible to count C as an ending diagonal triangle, which has a fib relationship with A. So you can't rule out going down first. Well, here's the volumes. Here's the E-mini volume. Here's the E-mini contract. And even though we now have an E-micro contract, we did over 3 million contracts. When you do over 3 million contracts, almost always that's a bottom. It certainly didn't work here. How many contracts do we have? Well, we had 3 million, so I can't say it works every time, but usually that's a characteristic of a low. Here's our weekly chart. We had a target of 34.1494. That's not really close enough for me, but just because that target works, it doesn't mean some other one won't. This is a trend line which goes back just about 20 years. It has a number of perfect hits, and we hit it right at today's low. And so that could have legs. I have a number of ways to count this. To be frank, I'm not happy with any of them. I went back to my contract, for my count from September 23rd. And if that's wave C, and that's wave A with a truncated fifth wave, you've got a good fib relationship. And this counts as an ABC with C equal to A. There's your A, there's your B, there's your C. It's not the only valid count. It doesn't break any rules. Still looks kind of funny to me. I also don't believe in spikes at the low like this. These spikes tend to get revisited at some time. Doesn't mean it has to be revisited anytime soon. Friday's pattern has the early high. We could gap down. Typically it's a negative day with a final hour low, but if instead it's positive, more gains should ensue. For the short term, the high volume reversal from the low a year should have further to go. We still have to trade past today's close for confirmation. Doesn't have to come immediately. It might not, because a day-long rally closed under midday highs, and it's possible to count the rally as a completed ABC with an ending diagonal triangle for wave C. Not thrilled with that count, but it breaks no rules, and C is equal to 0.382 times A. Sentiment indicators have been characteristic of a major low for weeks. It appears that the marked sequential buy and the Caroline spiral calendar date came through just after their typical 3-day window to deliver. Assuming we confirm the reversal by trading past today's close, our target's to challenge the upper Bollinger Band. The band moves every day, but now it's around 3,900 cash. And that doesn't mean we have to go there in a straight line. I don't believe in V bottoms. So no matter how high we go here, we could go pretty high. I'm not convinced the bear market's over. Also, this move began so far under the 200-a-day moving average, it tends to peter out at some point. So my longer-term stuff isn't as accurate as my other stuff. For tomorrow, we might not go up immediately. It's possible to get a drop. But this was such a stunning reversal, it should have further to go. There were a number of signals over the past weeks that we were close to a low. Would have been nice to call this exactly. It came just after I thought that the time had run out. But that's the way it goes sometimes. So all we need to do is go past today's close to continue higher. I'm not convinced we go up immediately, but it shouldn't be too much longer until the rally continues, and this should be a low. I'm not convinced it's the low, but we don't have to worry about that now, and probably not for the rest of the year. And that's today's call.